My brother had been married for only a short time when he learned that his wife had been unfaithful. It wasn't just a single lapse in judgment or a moment of weakness. She had a fully established relationship with another man. She had managed to keep the secret while still pretending to be a loyal wife, making my brother believe that their marriage was on solid ground. The revelation wasn't just painful, it was humiliating. He had been fully committed, working hard to build their future, while she had been living a double life. What made it worse was that she didn't even seem remorseful. Instead of denying it or trying to make amends, she treated it as if it were no big deal, like she had never truly cared about the marriage to begin with. That moment shattered everything for my brother: his trust, his confidence, and his sense of stability in the life he had been trying to create. The situation was made even more painful by the sacrifices my brother had been making for their relationship. He had been working in Chicago 5 days a week due to a sudden job promotion, and every Friday, without fail, he would endure a 6-hour drive just to spend the weekend with his wife. It was exhausting, but he did it because he loved her. He wanted their marriage to work, and he believed that their time apart was only temporary. He never once considered that while he was making this sacrifice, she was using his absence as an opportunity to betray him. Every weekend, he would come home thinking he was reuniting with the woman he loved, completely unaware that she had been spending the week with another man in the same home he was paying for. When my brother was offered the promotion in Chicago, he thought it was a step forward for both of them. He had worked hard for the opportunity, and the increase in salary meant they could afford a better lifestyle. The plan was simple: he would spend some time commuting while figuring out a permanent housing solution, and once everything was settled, they could transition into their new life together. But instead of supporting his ambition and celebrating his success, his wife saw his absence as nothing more than an opportunity for personal gain. Rather than standing by him and helping him navigate this transition, she chose to exploit the situation for her own selfish desires. She didn't view their marriage as a partnership; she saw it as an open door to do whatever she pleased without consequence. The arrangement seemed ideal on paper. Since my brother's promotion required him to be in Chicago immediately, his company generously provided financial assistance to ease the transition. For up to 18 months, they covered all his hotel expenses, food, and even gas for his weekend trips home. This meant that his salary could still go toward maintaining their household without added financial strain. He thought this setup was the best of both worlds: he could focus on work without neglecting his responsibilities at home. But while he was living modestly, staying in company-paid hotels, and managing his expenses carefully, his wife was back home spending money like there was no tomorrow. She treated his income as her personal slush fund, indulging in luxuries without ever considering the consequences. She wasn't just being unfaithful, she was actively draining his resources while he worked tirelessly to support them both. The financial betrayal was just as devastating as the infidelity. She wasn't just using his money to live comfortably, she was recklessly blowing through it without any regard for his well-being. The extent of the damage became clear when my brother was sent on a work trip to Mexico. It was supposed to be a routine assignment, but when he tried to make a simple purchase, he realized his bank account was nearly empty. He had just been paid the day before, yet he didn't even have enough money to buy a pack of cigarettes. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks. She had taken almost everything, leaving him stranded with nothing. He had been working hard, trusting that his money was going toward their future, only to discover that she had been bleeding him dry. That moment was more than just frustrating, it was humiliating. He was supposed to be in control of his life, yet he couldn't even afford the smallest luxury for himself. That was when he knew that things had gone too far. The financial betrayal and emotional devastation were overwhelming, but things only got worse when my brother confronted his wife. Their relationship was already crumbling under the weight of her infidelity, but once he realized the extent of her financial exploitation, it was the final straw. There was no salvaging their marriage; she had taken everything from him, both emotionally and financially. Instead of trying to fix things, or showing any sign of regret, she made it clear that she had already moved on. She packed her things, walked out of their home, and moved in with her boyfriend, as if she hadn't just destroyed someone's life. There was no heartfelt goodbye, no attempt to repair the damage she had done, just a cold, selfish departure. My brother was left standing in the ruins of a marriage he had fought so hard for, realizing that he had been nothing more than a convenient source of stability for her, until she no longer needed him. With his wife gone, my brother was left with the task of dealing with all of her remaining belongings. She hadn't even taken the time to collect everything herself, as if she expected him to clean up after her one last time. That's where I came in. I knew my brother was emotionally drained and didn't need to deal with sorting through her things, so I stepped in to help him pack up what she had left behind. As I handled her clothes, keepsakes, and personal items, I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of anger on his behalf. She had completely disrespected him, and now we were the ones stuck with the chore of making sure her stuff was ready for her to pick up. She had turned his life upside down, and all we were doing was making things easier for her by packing up her things nicely. It didn't feel right. As I packed, I decided to take a small, petty form of revenge. I wasn't going to destroy her things or do anything over the top, but I wanted to leave a little message, something subtle, yet satisfying. That's when I grabbed a marker and labeled one of the boxes with the C word. It was childish, sure, but after everything she had put my brother through, it felt justified. This wasn't just a messy breakup. She had lied, stolen, and completely disrespected him, and now she was walking away without any real consequences. The least I could do was get in one little jab before she took her things and left for good. But my brother, ever the reasonable one, saw what I had done and told me to take the label off. He wanted to handle things with dignity, and while I respected that, I still had one last trick up my sleeve. Since I couldn't keep my original label, I found another way to get my petty revenge. I went into the bathroom, rummaged through her toiletries, and found a tube of extra strength Vagisil. I smirked to myself as I carefully wrapped it in packing paper, making sure it was just as protected as the rest of her belongings. Then, I placed it right in the middle of a box filled with her most sentimental keepsakes. It was nestled perfectly between two delicate seashell owls that had belonged to her grandmother, her most treasured possessions. When she finally unpacked her things, she'd be greeted by an unexpected surprise, a not so subtle reminder that we hadn't just packed up her stuff without any hard feelings. It was petty, sure, but after everything she had done, it was the least she deserved. When she finally came to pick up her things, she arrived with an attitude, like she was the one who had been wronged. She didn't thank us for packing up her stuff, or acknowledge the destruction she had caused. She just expected to grab her things and leave. But when she realized the house was locked and she couldn't just walk in like she owned the place, she lost it. Instead of knocking or waiting like a normal person, she immediately started trying to kick in a panel window beside the front door. It was a full-blown tantrum, like a child throwing a fit because they weren't getting their way. She was furious that she no longer had control over the situation, that we weren't just letting her waltz in and take whatever she wanted. My brother ran to stop her before she could do any real damage, but I had another idea. I pulled out my phone and started recording. As soon as I started recording, the energy in the air shifted. She had been acting out in full rage, thinking there would be no consequences, but the moment she realized I had my phone pointed at her, she hesitated. I calmly stated that I was filming her, making it clear that anything she did next would be on record. That should have been enough to make her stop and walk away, but instead, it only made her angrier. The idea that she was being held accountable for her actions sent her into an even bigger meltdown. Her face twisted with fury, and she turned her attention from the window to me. It was almost funny. She had been so focused on breaking into the house, but now, I was suddenly the problem. Instead of backing down, she decided to escalate the situation even further. She stormed toward me, completely unhinged. I stood my ground, keeping my phone steady, knowing that as long as I had video proof, she couldn't twist the situation later. But before I could react, she lunged at me and smacked my phone out of my hand. It hit the ground with a loud crack, and for a second, I just stared at her in disbelief. She had actually put her hands on me. In that moment, I knew she had just made a huge mistake. Everything she had done before could have been written off as her being a bitter, entitled ex-wife, but now she had crossed the line into something criminal. She had just committed assault and damaged my property, all while being filmed. She had played herself in the worst way possible. She called me the C word and smacked my phone out of my hand. As soon as she realized I was recording, she lost it. Her face twisted with anger, and she stormed toward me. I stood my ground, calmly letting her know that I was filming for my own protection, but that only enraged her more. Without hesitation, she screamed the C word at me, as if I was the villain in this situation. Before I could react, she reached out and smacked my phone right out of my hand. The impact sent it flying, and it hit the floor with a loud clatter. It was an instinctive, knee-jerk reaction on her part, but a stupid one. She had just escalated the situation from a petty argument to a legal offense. Assaulting someone and damaging their property. That was a whole different level of reckless. I could already feel the satisfaction building because I knew that, legally speaking, she had just screwed herself over. I considered pressing charges, but my brother used the video as leverage. The moment my phone hit the ground, I knew I had a case against her. I could have gone straight to the police, filed a report, and pressed charges for assault. She had put her hands on me, and the video proof was all I needed to make sure she faced real consequences. For a few minutes, I seriously considered it. After everything she had done, cheating, draining my brother's finances, trying to destroy his home, this would have been the perfect way to make her finally face some accountability. But my brother, ever the practical one, decided to handle things differently. He saw the video not as a weapon for revenge, but as leverage. Instead of getting the law involved, he made it clear to her that if she ever tried to start trouble again, that video would make its way to the police. It was an unspoken threat, but an effective one. She wasn't stupid, she knew she had crossed the line, and she backed off. Her parents picked up the rest of her stuff, and she left us alone. After the dramatic showdown, she must have realized she had lost whatever power she thought she had over the situation. Instead of coming back herself, she sent her parents to collect the rest of her belongings. It was almost comical. The same woman who had been kicking windows and slapping phones out of hands suddenly didn't have the guts to face us anymore. Her parents, though, were polite and civil. They didn't try to defend her actions, and honestly, they seemed exhausted by the whole thing. Maybe they had seen this side of her before, or maybe they were just embarrassed that their daughter had made such a mess of her marriage. Either way, they took what was left of her stuff and left without any drama. And just like that, she was out of our lives. No more phone calls, no more tantrums, no more destruction. It was finally over. It wasn't enough revenge, but it was something. As satisfying as it was to see her finally walk away, it still didn't feel like enough. She had put my brother through hell, emotionally and financially draining him, while making a complete mockery of their marriage. A single moment of karma wasn't nearly enough to make up for all the damage she had done. But at the very least, we got a small, petty victory. The video gave us the upper hand. The carefully placed bedazzle was a final jab, and locking her out of the house had driven her to a ridiculous meltdown. It wasn't true justice, but it was something. And in situations like this, sometimes something is all you can get. At the end of the day, she lost everything: her marriage, her home, and whatever respect she might have once had. My brother, on the other hand, got a fresh start, and that was worth more than any revenge we could have planned.